and welcome to a special demo specifically on animation for our online Claymation class. My name is Jamie Hazelwood.
And I'm Tommy Sims.
And for this class we will be specifically focusing on animation. But before we can do any of that, we got to make sure everything is going to be running smoothly and everything will be exactly the way that we want. And so to do that, there's an awful lot of prep work involved. And so really, what does that mean? Well, let's break it down. First things first, we'll be coming to lighting.
So we're going to pull the camera back here and show you our setup.
Yes, and as you can see, these are already pre-made characters, pre-made sets from our previous films, because this demo, like we were saying before, is specifically on animation. If you want to learn about character design, set construction, those will be in other videos. So we won't really go too much into that aspect into this demo.
So the lights that we use are just regular clamp lights that you can find at any hardware store. We have them attached to the beams down in the basement here. Sorry, that's a little bit bright. Here we go. And on top of all of the lights, it's kind of difficult to see on the lights themselves, but I'm going to show you here. We have what we call lighting gels, and they come in all different colors. These lighting gels help change the color of the lights themselves as well as dim the lights. So as you can see in the shot that we have set up, the lighting looks kind of normal, but we do have a gel that's back behind the set that's more of a blue light, and the lights that are in front of the set are more of an orange light to soften the light itself and kind of give it a warmer feel on the camera itself.
Exactly. Blue almost really helps you out when it comes to making more of a night type shot, and then with the orange it works for indoor lighting to kind of match that fluorescent-y type feel. So once we get that the way we want, we go down to the prep or the props that we have around here, because as you can see here, we got an awful lot going on, but not necessarily all of that will be in our shot. So we'll turn on the old camera here.
The animation that we'll be doing is going to focus on Seymour here. He'll be coming in and looking around, but as you can see, the cashier that we have over in the corner, he's not going to be in the frame itself. He's just going to be kind of standing over there. So you don't have to worry about other characters and other stuff on the set. As you saw when I pulled the camera back, that we have all these other things lying around, but you don't have to worry about that. All you have to worry about is what you see on the camera itself. So some of the ways that you can kind of cheat with the animation is if your character is having trouble standing up, you can kind of hold on to their feet. As long as you can see my hand there, but you don't see the hand in the camera shot itself. So always keep in mind what you see in the frame of the camera.
Exactly. So that's why we're going to keep our little cashier over in the corner here, because that way when it comes to him being in the shot, he's exactly where he needs to be, and it kind of comes back to our saying more with that prep work. So he's not, off in a little pile, and we got to quick grab him and make sure that he's fitting okay with the rest of our set. And so once we get this the way we like it, we kind of look in the frame here, see if the lighting looks good, nothing's on frame that we don't need it to be, and anything of that sort. Next, we'll actually block out the movement to make sure that we know exactly where Seymour, the little character, will be, where he'll end up.
So what we're going to have him do is kind of come in here and walk this way towards all of the props and whatnot up on the shelves, and he'll just kind of look at it. And we'll stop there for now, just for the time being. And what the camera is going to do is it's going to stay here. Seymour's going to walk into the frame, and the camera eventually will follow him and essentially be zooming in on him. But for zooming, what Jamie and I do when we animate is we don't actually use the zoom on the camera itself. What we do is actually move the whole camera. And the advantage of doing that is when you actually zoom with the camera itself by hitting the zoom button, that allows less light into the camera itself, so it will make your image darker. But also, if you're filming and you're zoomed in and your battery on the camera dies and you need to replace it, or something happens where the camera has to shut off and turn back on, you might have difficulty trying to get that exact zoomed in image ready to go. So we just move the whole tripod itself, and it also helps make a smoother movement, because when you're animating, it's shot by shot. You take a picture, and then you move your characters, and take another picture, move your characters, take a picture. So when you're zooming in, you want to see that movement. So what you got to do is move the camera a little bit, take a picture, move the camera a little bit, take a picture, move the camera a little bit, take a picture. When you zoom with the camera itself, you essentially are doing the same thing, but it's not going to be as smooth because it moves so much each time, and you can just control it a lot better when you're moving the tripod.
Exactly, and that's a good mindset to have when it comes to this camera, is to think of it as an actual character itself. So you got to make sure that not only are you blocking out the movement for your character right here, Seymour, but you're also blocking out the movement of this camera, so that way it's not getting all wiggly-woggly and you're getting these weird frames in there that you weren't really prepared for.
Another thing to keep in mind when you're filming is, before we get going, is to make sure your flash is shut off. What we did is we set up all of the lighting here, and when you turn the flash on, you're killing all the lighting that you set up. So, when you're filming and the flash happens to be on, all you're going to see is this giant glow of light in the center of the frame throughout the entire film. It's not going to change, and it'll create these dramatic shadows and whatnot that you really don't want to have. So you want to make sure the flash is shut off, your lighting is decent, and then we're good to go.
Exactly. It just comes back to the prep work. If you want to really start light, instead of a flash, you can just mess with these little clamps that we have up here. And so the reason why we were showing you the little movement we were having before is that way you know exactly where he'll be. That's why we were moving it with our hand. Because if you obviously didn't really prep up or didn't think about where he's going to end up, you might run into something where maybe something came in there that you didn't really account for. And another thing that helps when it comes to blocking out movements is little pieces of tape. So if you could grab that for me, Tommy.
Yep. Here you go, Jamie.
Thank you, sir. Because what we do with this tape here is to kind of make little markers as to maybe where he stops, where he ends, for the character and the camera. Because when we look in the frame here, it kind of comes back to these other characters and your hands, because you're not really seeing these. So it's another way to kind of cheat, is the way to show you where your character will end up, so you know exactly where he should end up. So you can use just little pieces of tape here for the camera and for the character. So that way you have a nice little blueprint as to where to go, where for the movement. So it'll just be a lot smoother and a lot easier for you to animate.
We're going to keep the tape white so it's easy for you guys to see, but what you could do is color the tape the color of your floor or base, whatever, so that way it blends in. Because one thing you want to keep in mind is if the camera is further away and you have a piece of tape, like say over here, if the floor happens to be in the shot, you're going to see that piece of tape in your film. So what you could do is color that in, or as you're zooming in, eventually put the piece of tape over there where he's going to end up, so that way you know where he's going to stop without having to see that tape in your movie.
Exactly. So, now that we've discussed kind of a little bit of do's and don'ts with the camera, with the movements, we seem pretty well confident as to what we want to accomplish in our next shot. So, we're going to end there, and we're going to pick it up later in another demo, and that way we'll go specifically into our actual animation.